Let's talk a little bit about defending Gun Bunch from match quarters. So Bunch is maybe a little bit less popular than it was in previous years, with some of the improvements done to deep zones on cover 2 and cover 3. It's a little bit harder to attack things, though it's certainly still really good if you know what you're doing. I think in general, although there were improvements to some of the spot drop zone coverages, they're really too soft to use, especially these days when you have set feet lead and so on. You can just pick apart those windows all too easily, in my opinion. And although man coverage is really good in this game, you know, with bunched and stacked sets, it's hard to play press, and you can get picked and you can get rubbed. And then the good players usually have receivers all over their field with the route abilities, and they can get easy separation and things like that. But match defense offers a good in-between, in my opinion. Okay, so it's really the only defense, and match defense in terms of quarters, is really the only defense designed to defend bunch sets in this game. But the problem is just is that there's only one match defense, right? So even if it's good, even if it's solid all the way across the board, no defense is perfect. And if you just sit in one all game long, you're just going to get beat apart unless it's something crazy glitchy, which it isn't. And then on top of that, most players, they realize quarters is good defense, so they take some time in the lab and they find good match beaters, good quarters beaters, both in terms of picking up chunk yardage, but also for one-play scores and things like that. So this video, what we're going to do is go over a couple of nice adjustments that you can do to shore up some of those issues. And then if you're a real obsessive with football and Madden like I am, definitely check out my YouTube membership. So simultaneously, we'll have a video over there that goes over bunch and the many different adjustments that you can do to keep your opponent guessing and hopefully messing up. Okay, so the same quarters look, after the play, it still says quarters, but everything will be a little bit different in terms of being more solid and then also giving you different options so your opponent cannot key on one specific thing. Okay, so what makes quarters really good against defending gun bunch? So number one, like I said, it's really the only coverage in this game that's designed for bunch. And so you have the box check, which I think most people know about right now, where these 4 defenders over here do a good job of zoning off for the initial route distribution of the bunch to take place. And then from there, they'll man up. Okay, so you get the tight coverage of man coverage, but without any of the downsides in terms of picks and rubs and trying to match against early breaks like slant routes and things like that in man coverage, where you will have short end elites that give you separation. So let's look at a couple different meta distributions right here. Number one is obviously sail. Okay, so sail, we know this corner route gets open against zone coverages. That deep sideline area is not covered by spot drop zones. And even this little flat route from the tight end gets into a soft spot. So in this case, you saw all 3 of those routes were taken out. Okay, so that's one meta route distribution with the corner from flood. But then you also have crossers. So you have verticals right here. We're able to match verticals, and we try to throw that pressure inaccurate, but you see you have somebody matching him all the way across the field. So where is quarters box bad against bunch? Okay, so when you have a box over 3 receivers, it generally means you have 2 deep and 2 under. Okay, so safety takes deep inside, corner takes deep outside, the hook or the linebacker takes short inside, and the flat takes short outside. So when you have situations where there's 3 short routes or 3 deep routes, that means you're either outnumbered or somebody's, chasing the play, and then you can find an opening. So generally speaking, for the most part, box is an easy coverage, and it takes care of 90% of route distributions, especially the stock ones that are designed to attack different areas of the field. But when you come up against crazy guys online, they'll do anything, right? It doesn't matter what they'll do every sorts of hot route combos to break your coverage. But even that, you can look at a stock play like verticals right here, and you see that you have 3 vertical routes. Okay, so in the end, what ends up happening, let's go ahead and show you right here, all the routes get matched, just like this, but you do get a weird situation here. Okay, safety takes deep in, so he takes the crosser. He does a pretty good job with that, even though the backside safety is kind of weird. He should probably help him out there. The wheel right here from number 1, the flat defender takes first outside, so he's got him. But then who would take this next guy? He's not short in, so the hook doesn't take him. The other two guys are occupied. And so what's left is the corner who's kind of bailing to his deep quarter. So in the end, he matches him. So you're not going to go get a one-play score there unless you aggressive catch on him. But you do have this little pocket right here, right? So you have this little pocket here. You can hit that over and over again unless you're using the hook defender and you help squeeze that, which you definitely can, but it kind of limits what you can do, okay? But that's just one small aspect. Let's dive into the worst ones. Okay, so that's 3 vertical routes, and we can get into worse ones. But even before that, let's just go into 3 short routes right here with spacing switch. Okay, so we have basically 2 routes that develop outside and short, and one that's outside and in. Okay, so this is the first outside and short. That means the flat defender will take him, but generally speaking, he's out leveraged and the corner doesn't really act on him, and you can throw this over and over again. And then even with that, once that flat defender eventually matches that little speed out right there, then you have this little hitch from the tight end, and you can throw that again over and over again. And although it's quite a different concept, it kind of ends up working similarly to verticals, right? So the flat takes number 1, and he's a little bit out leveraged, but he ends up taking him. Obviously, I showed you there, you can throw that early and get an easy gain. In this case, rather than running a crosser, number 2 is running this little snag route right here, and the hook takes him instead of the safety. That's fine. And then again, nobody's left to take the tight end, so the corner has to match down on him late. But at that point, you've already got your 5 yards, and maybe you fall for a couple more. So not super ideal. Then, okay, so let's break things even more right here. So let's go to verticals, and you see this is one of the kind of route distributions that you may see online where rather than wheeling this guy out, you're running a straight up vertical right here with the number 3 receiver. So now you still have 3 vertical routes, except you don't have the bonus on the defensive side of things of one of those vertical routes having a flat stem first. Because this guy has a flat stem, the flat defender matches him off the field, and he can be a +1 in your box. Okay, so now your box has three guys deep and 1 low, but now you have nothing for that quarter flat to attach onto, and what you end up getting, unless your guy gets bumped, you should get a big gain over the top. Okay, so in that case, it worked out just great for the defense, but let's just run it again right here. Not always does he get bumped. Lots of times it works out something like this, and your receiver can just fly by him and get a 1-play score, which obviously sucks. On top of that, you have this deadly play, clear out. Okay, this has been used for a number of years now to beat match coverage or quarters coverage. So how should it work out right here? Okay, so you have short in, so this guy should be taken by the hook defender. You have a deep out and a deep in. Okay, so the safety takes the deep in, and then the corner has to take the deep out. But unfortunately, because that corner is so far out, he's out leveraged to this. Okay, and usually what happens is something just like this, and even with a slower receiver like Michael Thomas, you can get a big play or a 1-play score. Okay, so although a solid coverage for the most part, and the fact that it's really easy to pick up, it kind of makes sense, right? The hook's inside, the flat's outside, and the safeties are splitting the deep routes in and out. It can be easily manipulated. And what's really cool is that actually that's what happens in real life too, right? So it's simple to teach to your players, but it can also be broken down relatively easily. So what people do, and what we don't have access to, although what we're going to do in this video, is play something called bingo. Okay, so bingo is, and again, this is split field coverage, so we're not worrying about the backside right here. Even if we can get help from this guy or help from this guy in some situations, we're only worrying about the 4/3. Okay, so what bingo allows us to do is adjust our box depending on the route distribution. Okay, so it's not only is it match coverage, the match you run depends on the distribution. So you got like 2 levels of match coverage to bingo. So this is something that I would probably never expect to be in Madden, but with a little bit of trickery, we can make it ourselves. And the crazy thing about it is that we're actually going to be using the cornerback over here. Okay, so before you go crazy and say no, I only use the middle linebacker, just try it. Try something different. It's fun, first of all. Like, do you really want to be covering the middle linebacker for, you know, 30 snaps a game, game over game, month over month, Madden 22 to Madden 23 to Madden 24? Sometimes it's fun to just try something different. Not only that, is that if you're using this guy, you're kind of shutting down a third of the field, right? Look at all this space that you can shut down just by being a user presence right here. And then your opponent has to basically focus on this side of the field where all your numbers are. Anyway, just a thought, okay? So now what bingo is if the number one receiver runs underneath, and I'll probably actually need to change the playback, okay? So I'll be right back. Okay, so let's look at the offense right here. So if the number one receiver runs underneath right now, so he's no longer the number one receiver, then it goes back to box, essentially, okay? So if you're keying on the number one receiver immediately, and if he goes underneath, you're going to play box, okay? So the corner's role in box is the deep outside, essentially, okay? The second outside. What you'll need to do is man yourself up on number one, okay? And we'll talk about why this is important, okay? So in a route distribution like this, which is actually something that's very straightforward for box to defend, now you're playing box, okay? So now you see that you take the corner, you got him double covered, and everybody else is covered. Nice. Okay, so that's really quite straightforward, I think. So you're playing as the cornerback, you're manning up on the outside guy, and if he runs underneath right now, you let him go to the inside, and you're playing the deep outside. So you're keying the corner route, or you're going deep and helping out on some of those glitchy route combinations, which we'll get to. Okay, now if he doesn't go out right away, so let's say they're doing something like this. So if one is still outside, if one stays number one, then you're playing a coverage called Buster, essentially, okay? So all you need to be understand with Buster as the cornerback is that you have number one man-to-man. However, you can swap with the safety if, say, number 2 or 3 goes out on any vertical route. Okay? So if you get something like this corner route, you are going to know that the safety will take your streak and you'll pass off and play the corner. Okay? So here's how it's going to go. Okay, let's run it right here. We're keying number 1, we see this, and we go ahead and take that. Okay, so again, we're only looking at the bunch side right here. So the flat defender takes the flat. This guy has nothing to do. We have number 1, but expecting number 2 to go out. Okay, so once number 2 goes out, we take him, and then our safety stays on the vertical route. Okay, so again, if number 1 were to go under, we're playing box. But if he stays number 1, we're playing bingo. Or sorry, not bingo, we're playing Buster. And all you need to know from the cornerback's perspective is that you have number 1 vertical unless one of these other interior guys goes out deep, in which case you can swap with the safety. Okay, so probably a lot there, but feel free to kind of rewind, think about it a little bit. Once you kind of get it down, it's really not that complex. And honestly, it's really fun. Like just playing from a different perspective than you normally would, and playing with a specific set of rules, knowing that if you follow those rules, everybody else is solid. Yeah. Anyway, let's show you a few different route distributions. Okay, let's go to just straight up verticals right here. So we knew when I showed you verticals before, the safety took the crosser, the flat took the first wheel, the outside wheel, and then the corner had to track back inside to get that seam wheel. But now if we're playing bingo, so we got this guy. If he stays 1, we got him man-to-man. Okay, so especially if he goes to the flat, we got him no matter what. Okay, so let's look at how this goes now. Now we got this guy, and we're going to take him, and maybe we can help out late on the tight end if the guy has a bad transition. Okay, so now, there's that quick throw to the wheel people like to do. You're essentially taking that out. We had kind of a weird transition right here from the nickel, which can happen sometimes. So you may want to split the difference between those two, and then if they try to lob it over the top, you can easily recover. That's something I've had to do before. If they try to bullet this, it's a pick underneath, unless they ag catch that. But if they lob this and you're cheating inside a little bit, you should be able to take him, no problem. But what I like about this is that no longer is this guy free right here for an easy throw because your nickel is there, and no longer is this free for an easy quick throw because you are playing that with your user. And then over here, again, you have the tight coverage on the crosser. Okay, now what about if they try that glitchy route combination where I showed you that against regular box, it would beat him. Okay, well in this case, we got him man-to-man, and that's all there is to it. One stays number one, so we track number one vertical, expecting number two to break out, or number two or number three to break out deep, and none of them ever do. So all we do is just carry number one all the way down the field. What about spacing switch? Okay, so with spacing switch, I showed you that it was easy to hit that speed out route, and then even if you didn't want to hit that, you have the little hitch route from the tight end. But now with Bingo, you can come down hard on this, and it makes this a uncomfortable throw. Okay, so let's show you that again. So they can't throw the speed out because one stays number one, so we take him, and then because we're manned up on him, the flat defender knows he doesn't need to take him, so he takes the next flat route. Okay, and in that case, I was able to complete that just because I have set field lead, like as most people would. But this is something that you would normally be uncomfortable in throwing, because if this guy has pick artist, if he has acrobat, if he has the flat zone KO, this is not going to end up in completion. Plus, you have pretty much double coverage on this guy, and then over here, these guys are covered as well. Not the people aren't really running spacing, but just kind of giving you a proof of concept of what's going on with Bingo. Okay, and last but not least, let's talk about this clear out play right here, where we showed you at the kind of near the start of the video where the point guy was able to get free over the top. But now as Bingo, you're gonna see number one run underneath, and then you just transition to the next guy. Okay, so again, it's gonna be playing like box, but now that you're user in the corner, you're gonna be playing a better box. Okay, the only problem here is that now the three receiver hook doesn't do a great job. Okay, and actually the thing I didn't even mention right here is as a user corner, if you're too aggressive underneath, you can see number one go underneath and not be quick enough to take the vertical over here. So, this does take a little bit of intuition and practice and knowing that if they're in, the commander's playbook, that this is a possibility. So yeah, maybe Bingo even isn't the best option for this, but in the members only video, we'll go over, I think, at least 3 other really good options that may even be more sound against this particular route combination. But anyway, in this case, we're able to cover him, and then we got double coverage on this guy. So if they try to ag catch them, that's a no-go. The problem here is that unless your pass rush comes in, which, at this point with these guys 30 yards down the field and him running this in route, that pass rush probably should come in. But this 3 receiver hook doesn't always match this guy all the way across the field. And that's really a problem with bunch in general, or quarters in general, is that this 3 receiver hook can sometimes just do this weird thing where he matches and then just forgets about the guy, and then he's free there for a big play. Okay, so yeah, maybe you don't want to rely on this if you see your opponent has this in their playbook. So that's obviously not ideal. But if you have a backside of, say, cover 6, he's going to be running into a vertical hook plus a cloud flat, in which case not only will you not be able to throw that, it might end up in an interception or something like that, because he'll see that these guys are covered by you, and then the pressure is coming in, he's going to try to throw the nearest route, and that could be a pick. Okay, so cover 6, everything's the same on this side. It's just that on the backside now you have more of a zone look that can help to cut off some of those crossing routes underneath. Okay, so not a great, not the best option there. But if you check out the members videos on the YouTube membership, again, we're going to go over multiple different things on the bunch side to give you not only more options that may be more sound against, say, clear out or so on, just more options to keep your opponent guessing. And included in that, we'll talk about how on the backside, how you can defend this hot routed C route that if you just leave stock quarters is generally a big play or a one play score over the top. Okay, so I strongly encourage you to check those out because we have a lot of deep diving to do on that. Hope to see you all there.